I don't want to be PC. I don't have. For all of us in the stand-up world, all of us are seeing this and feeling this, and it's a little dangerous and uncomfortable that there is things you can't say because they might hurt people's feelings. And my mother told me a long time ago, when it was from a Baptist church, I think somewhere in the South, a preacher said to his flock, and my mom repeated, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never break them." And my mom said that I went to school, was bullied. She goes, words mean nothing. It's the intent behind the word. Lenny Bruce said it. Comics play with them all the time. We joke around about words. Words don't mean anything. And all of a sudden now into the world says words matter. And in my gut, words don't matter. The intent behind the word matters. I'm a wordsmith. We play with words all the time. But it's the intent and what people do with their lives. But words, man, we get into a weird thing when I can't say stuff because you don't like what that means. Well, that meaning it, I didn't mean that by that. I said, so it's, Mike Baxter has a way, great writers, the staff is very mixed, has a way of putting things into a very clear perspective.
To the point where any kind of criticism of any individual or group can be labeled cruel. And the whole point about humor, the whole point about comedy, and believe you me, I've thought about this, is that all comedy is critical. All humor is critical. And if you start saying, oh, we mustn't criticize or offend them, then humor's gone. With humor goes a sense of proportion. And then as far as I'm concerned, you're living in 1984.
Yeah, and because it was the #2 comedy in the country, Ben, that's why people said, are they canceling it because he's a conservative?
Well, there's no question that there's massive bias inside Hollywood. I wrote an entire book where I went and interviewed people in Hollywood, producers, writers, actors, directors, about exactly why there was so little conservatism in Hollywood. Many of them admitted to me on tape, on the record, that there was open discrimination in Hollywood against conservatives. There's an entire group of people out here in L.A. called Friends of Abe, thousands and thousands of conservatives who hide underground because they're afraid that they'll be fired if they're found out as people who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton.
Last Man Standing, starring Tim Allen, headed back to TV. Fox is reviving the series, which was the second highest rated comedy on ABC before it was canceled after a 6-season run.
A lot of naked, a lot of nude. I'm going that way. I'm going to identify as a woman. We're going to be very politically correct. I'm going to identify as an Asian woman that wants to be a European man. So it's kind of I stay where I am. But in my head, we'll do the journey of what it's like to be an Asian woman in a European man's body. So you'll see, I eat a lot of ramen, it'll be a lot of Asian dishes, but it'll be subtle.
The online streaming service Netflix recently uploaded the iconic 90s American sitcom Friends, but it hasn't gone down well with a new generation of viewers who have expressed serious reservations about the show. So, will it stand the test of time?
We're 29, we're not women.
Someone taken her order yet?
Oh yeah, she did. He did. She? I'm sorry, I'm new. I don't...
Then there are bisexuals, though some just say they're kidding themselves.
Political correctness has had a massive impact on this generation's shift in taste, making a comedian's job even harder to appeal and not offend. And for veterans of satire like Mel Brooks, it's pretty much the death of comedy.
We have become stupidly politically correct, which is the death of comedy. Comedy has to walk a thin line, take risks. Comedy is the lecherous little elf whispering into the king's ear, always telling the truth about human behavior.
Even talk show hosts are running scared of getting their fingers burnt. People became so offended at the TV host Bill Maher's jokes, he introduced this feature.
Americans have got to learn how to take a joke. A few months ago, we introduced a segment called Explaining Jokes to Idiots.
Some comedians have even stopped performing for younger audiences altogether.
I have no interest in gender or race or anything like that, but everyone else is kind of with their little calculating, is this the exact right mix?
The difference between the generations right now is that people are being rewarded on social media for saying that they're offended by things, whereas back in the past, people would just kind of laugh it off or just kind of shrug it off or, you know, turn off the television if they didn't like a show.
I don't remember his show being conservative politically, and that's, I think, what the story is here, is that it's being portrayed as conservative simply because it's not so annoyingly liberal.
Right.
Hollywood is so far left now, just being normal, which is what that show appears to be, normal common sense, is now right-wing. That's the story.
But people would cheer at the Mike Baxter vlog, and again, why is that show off the air? It's one show we all can agree with, and even if they didn't like his opinion, at least there was an opinion, and it was about family. And I said, listen, you don't ask me. And they wrote, and the fans did this, and it really was brought back because all you out there, it's none of us gave up. I mean, we really thought there was gas left in the tank. That's kind of where this was. It just didn't seem like this was ready to go yet. It was kind of a weird time to pull the plug. Yeah. And so to me, it's perfect timing, but I can't tell you how complex this is to get it back together. This was got to give Fox some applause to get the brass at Fox to get this all back, and all the actors from other projects to come back, studio space. It's just a huge deal, and I'm geeked to be here.
As I've always said, it's like Archie Bunker that went to University of Michigan, which is where I came up with. He's got a very big sense of self. His opinions matter, but he's also raising 3 daughters of very different points of view and a wife with a different point of view. So he's conflicted and eventually has a very pedestrian point of view.
The one with the homophobe, the sexist and racist. Not your average title of a Friends episode, but according to millennials, it could be. When Netflix announced the award-winning sitcom would be uploaded to the streaming service, fans both new and old were thrilled. Only instead of enjoying the classic comedy, the younger generation have nitpicked reasons to be offended.
Netflix putting Friends in their top picks for you suggestions is straight up homophobic.
There is nothing I hate more than Ross in a male nanny episode of Friends. He is so sexist and homophobic, and I just want to jump into the TV and strangle him.
All the fat Monica jokes. I remember them so clearly. They used to follow me around in my head when I was a teenager and stopped eating. Thanks, guys.
Friends aired more than 20 years ago, and viewers would have molded the characters' changing perceptions of society. But apparently, in the eyes of millennials, the jokes of the iconic 90s show have not aged well.
I think you see a big disconnect from the perception that the media creates and the way people actually think. I think most people are actually much better at thinking critically and separating actual offenses from comedy than the media would have us believe. I don't buy it. I don't think it's real.
ABC kicked him to the curb, no more. Now Fox is bringing him back. I guess after they saw how successful Roseanne was.
Yeah, no question. I think that was certainly, according to executives, one of the deciding factors, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, Roseanne had this enormous burst out of the gate, and that's because a lot of people who voted for President Trump were looking at Roseanne. They're saying, hey, look, somebody on TV who voted for President Trump. Well, Last Man Standing was one of the few conservative-oriented shows on television, and then it went away. And it's smart for Fox or any other network to bring back a show that might appeal to half the country, considering no other show apparently does.
Jerry Seinfeld says some young people are too politically correct when it comes to comedy.
And he's calling out millennials for not being able to laugh.
What's up with millennials?
Apparently he has some sort of problem with you.
The comedian made headlines when he said this during an ESPN radio show.
I don't play colleges, but I hear a lot of people tell me don't go near colleges. They're so PC. They just want to use these words. That's racist. That's sexist. That's prejudice. They don't even talking about.
Comedian Eddie Brill has been in the biz for more than 30 years.
Political correctness is awful. I mean, the word politics is in it, so automatically it's a bad thing.
He says it's taken the bite out of comedy, but hasn't noticed young people being any more PC than other groups.
I think you can't generalize about millennials. There are a group of millennials and a group of seniorials who just are, they can't stand art, and art has to be about them, and that's not the way art works.
22-year-old Jake Ellman says Seinfeld is right.
Agree completely.
Yeah? Tell me why.
Yeah, because it's comedy. It shouldn't be politically correct.
23-year-old Devin White disagrees.
I think it's a good thing that people are more mindful about where other people are coming from.
Now, if you're a big fan of Seinfeld's comedy, don't worry. He says political correctness hasn't stopped him from delivering jokes on issues he can make funny.
The British newspapers every day offend me with their laziness, their nastiness, and their inaccuracy. But I'm not going to expect someone to stop that happening. I should just simply speak out about it. You know, sometimes when people are offended, they want somebody to just come in and say, right, stop that, to whoever is offending them. And of course, as a former chairman of the BBC once said, there are some people one would wish to offend. And I think there's truth in that too. So the idea that you have to be protected from any kind of uncomfortable emotion is one I absolutely do not subscribe to. And a fellow that I helped write to books about psychology and psychiatry, he was a renowned psychiatrist in London called Robin Skinner, said something very interesting to me. He said, if people can't control their own emotions, then they have to start trying to control other people's behavior. And when you're around super sensitive people, you cannot relax and be spontaneous because you've no idea what's going to upset them next. And that's why I've been warned recently, don't go to most university campuses.